Hey everybody, Jason here. So this video is going to be kind of like a preview video, I guess, of the hockey game that I've been working on. It takes inspiration from a number of different places and in some other games. Um, One of the inspirations that I had as far as mechanics go, the time and possession mechanic is ripped straight from Hockey Time by Jason Graham at Flash Games, so I can take no credit for that. It just fit perfectly with what I was trying to do here. It's going to be a dice game similar to Hockey Time, except that there's not a matchup chart as far as like periods go. The way that this game is set up currently, anyway, and I've done a lot of play testing on it. But some rules have changed here and there. My notes are changing, but this is just a preview of what I'm working on. There's going to be three positions in the game: your forwards, your defenseman, and your goalie. So those are all rated a D6 to D12. Your forwards are the only position that can be rated a D12, and that's pretty rare. This video will not go into how I determine these positions because it literally will follow your entire lines, and this is basically just I'm only tracking the quote unquote first line of your team. Um, so your forwards are typically ranked between 1 and 3 stars apiece, like the star rating for your player, and then you add up your stars for your players to get your overall rank for that line. I'm sorry, for that position. Like say your forwards, your defenseman can range from a D6 to a D10, and your goalie can be ranked from a D6 to a D10, D6, D8, D10. You can go as low as a D4, and that's only if a penalty would bring you down below a D6 or an injury would bring you down below a D6. Um, forwards, however, have the ability, depending on their skill level, to go up to a D12. The fourth stat that we're tracking is your penalty, and this is kind of like an overall I don't an overall view or an overall rating of your focus as a team. The lower the die, the better. As far as right now, as far as the way I think my math is working out for penalties, the lower the die, the better. um, Again, I'm still playtesting all this. So basically, what happens is you'll roll all 4 dice. Like say these are all the dice for the home team, which in this example is going to be Chicago. These are the dice for the visiting team, which in this case is Boston. So Boston is ranked a D6 for forwards, a D8 for defensemen, and a whopping D10 for a goalie. And their penalty die is a D6. So what that means is, if any of the dice for the visiting team, whether it be a forward, a defenseman, or a goalie, match the penalty die, and those dice are odd numbered, then it's going to be a penalty for Boston or for the visiting team. If any of, like, say they roll a 6 and a 6, it's not going to count as a penalty because it's not an odd number. And the same with the home team. If they roll a matching number with the penalty die, but it's an even number for the home team, that's a penalty. The reason I'm trying it this way is because originally the way I had been playtesting it was if any die, whether it was even or odd, matched the penalty die, that was a penalty for that team, and both sides could get penalties on the same highlight. And I just found that penalties were happening maybe a little bit too often, And so currently I'm trying this out to see if I can get it to where penalties aren't as bad. So that's why right now, as of this recording, odd number matches for visitors, even number matches for home, to determine a penalty. If one of the dice match the penalty die, and it is a penalty, that position on the next highlight, if it's within the type of penalty they've earned, will be a penalty. So they'll be stepped down one die. So say, for example, on this play, the penalty die was a 1, and the Boston defense also rolled a 1. That would incur a penalty. Boston would get a penalty on the play, and they're on the next play, if it was within the time that the penalty would be played in, their defense die would rank down from a D8 to a D6. Nothing can ever be below a D4, regardless of any injuries or penalties. If two dice, say the goalie and the forward, if a goalie gets a penalty, the penalty is going to go to the defense, typically. That's where, I'm sorry, the penalty would typically go to the offense, like the forwards, because if you're on a penalty play, your defense is a more important position, so you don't want to rank that die down. Now, it could be if you're behind, you might want to put, if your goalie gets a penalty, you might want to put your defense on the penalty and have an extra, or keep your forwards out there to try and maybe score a goal if you get possession of the puck. That's up to the coach, but typically you want to put your forward as your serving your penalty if a goalie gets a penalty. So the goalie die will never step down unless it's for an injury. And the way an injury happens, look at my notes real quick, because things have changed up. If all 3 position dice match the penalty die, whether it's even or odd, because has nothing to do with the penalty. If all 3 position dice match the penalty die, an injury has occurred rather than a penalty. And then you roll a d12 to determine which position suffers the injury, whether it's forward, defense, or goalie. And again, that will step your die code down 1 to a minimum of 4 for the remainder of the game. And injuries and penalties do stack, but they're never stepped down below a d4. So the way this is going to work is I will roll the yellow die as the time die, purple die as possession die. So if you've seen me or Jason or anybody play Hockey Time, you'll know 5. That's 5 minutes into the period. That's an odd number, so the visitor gets possession of the puck. And I'll explain kind of some of this as we're going along. I know this right here is probably hard to see. Again, I'm using a different camera than I normally use, and I'm not sure how well, once post is done, how well this is going to look. I haven't had a chance to edit any of my videos yet, but we'll see. If it's too bad, if it's not very good, I won't use this camera again for this specific type of recording anyway. But here's how I'm going to roll my dice. I'm going to roll the dice, and each one of these dice is a position die. Green is for Boston, purple is for Chicago. I don't have enough purple dice, so I have a blue die there, but here's an example of how this will work. I'll roll these. I'm going to try to roll each set of dice on one side of the thing, but we'll read the dice going down. So Boston's forwards are a D6. Well, luckily a D6 was already at the top, so that's going to be their forward die. Their defense is a D8, so we'll push that up to the D8 spot. Their goalie was a D10, which happened to already be there. And their penalty die is a D6, which was the bottom one, so we'll put that there. The Chicago dice, they have a D8 for forwards. So this is the top D8. There's the bottom D8, so we'll just take the top one, move it to the top. D6 for defense. That's the only D6 they have, so that will go up to defense. Their goalie is D8. That was the other D8, which was already down, and their penalty die is a D10. They're pretty good not getting penalties. So that's how we'll read the dice. Forward, defense, goalie, penalty. Now, this was an odd die, so the puck possession would have went to the visiting team. Now, you still want to throw dice for both teams, even if this team doesn't get possession of the puck, because you have to figure out their defensive bits for the moment, and also to see if they have any injuries or penalties. So we'll just start with the visiting team first. That's how we'll do it. So we would record this was 5 minutes in. We'd say the possession, so let's see, time, 5 minutes in to the first period. And possession, I'll mark right here, possession went to, hopefully this right here, I can do this without messing this up too bad. That's what that looks like, and it looks kind of bad in this light in this camera. Hopefully that makes sense, and it probably will make more sense as I go along. I apologize for this thing shaking a little bit. I'm trying to mount it in a way that it won't move. This is a different setup for me. This is not something I'm used to doing, set up in this way. So what happens here? We've got their forwards. They rolled a 4, so and they have no injuries or penalties right now, which are these 2 columns. So we'll just go. If you want to write in the final column, I usually do that. If there's an injury or penalty, I'll write what their final die code would be for this highlight. So what happens is, just like in Hockey Time, these are individual highlights in a period. It's not going to track shot by shot by shot, moment by moment by moment. This just happens to be a highlight in time, 5 minutes into the game, when a major point of action is occurring. So up through this 5 minutes, there may have been some penalties. There may have been a penalty. There may have been a couple shots on goal. However, there were no goals because right now the score is 0-0. Unless you're at a moment of a highlight, nothing that will mechanically change the game or affect the game or scoring will have taken place unless it's at a highlight. So between highlights, everything is abstract. So 5 minutes into the game, the forwards rolled a 4. So in the results column here, I will write 4. Their defense rolled a 6. Their goalie rolled a 3. And their penalty die was a 2, which doesn't do anything for penalties because it was not an odd number. And also, these 3 dice did not match that one, so there's no injuries. So for Chicago, for Chicago, the home team, this 5 here is for their forwards. The defense rolled a 3. Their goalie rolled a 3. And their penalty die was a 2. Luckily for them, though, nothing. This was an even number, but no other dice matched a 2, so there's no penalties. So how this happens is they have possession. The forwards rolled a 4. You will compare that to the defense of the opposing team. If that number beats, not meets, but beats their defense, that means it's a shot on goal. 4 is higher than 3, so it is a shot on goal. They get the dice. They get the puck past the defense. Once it's a shot on goal, you'll add in the goalie die, the goalie number. That 4 plus those 3 plus 3 is 6, so 4 is not higher than 6. So it's a shot on goal, but it's a save. And the score is currently 0-0. So what you'll do is, if the puck gets past the defense, you will add the goalie rate or the goalie die to the defensive die. The total, the sum of those 2 together, is your final defensive number for the goalie. This is the goalie's current ability mixed in with the defensive ability from the other team, or from their defensive side of the line. Hopefully that makes sense. It just happened to be that if you were to compare this to that and it becomes a shot on goal, then that to that, that's a goal. It happened to be that math-wise, there were way too many goals to be realistic if you were just comparing it to each individual thing. So, as of right now, for this work in progress, that's how it's working. You're going to combine the defense and the goalie. But the reason you check the defense to see if it's even a shot on goal is going to be for statistics tracking, which will come into play later and be more important later. This is a more advanced part of the game. You can probably, I'm going to make a faster, more basic game where you'll just combine the two numbers rather than checking to see if it's a shot on goal and then seeing if it beats the goalie. But as for now, this is the more advanced rules for the game. I say advanced, it's not really advanced, but in terms of how this game is going to play, this is a more advanced rule. Not that it's hard to figure out, but okay. So again, we're going to roll possession and time. Time is yellow, so we're 2 more minutes in, so that's 7 minutes, and we're still in period 1. Odd, so we're possession is still with the visitors. Let's roll their dice, and then we'll roll their dice. So D6 for Boston's forwards, the D8, the D10, and then their penalty die. The D8, which is already at the top, which is good. Defense, which was D6, that's already there. D8, and then, oops, I rolled that over. D10 was a 7, so that's good there. It just happened to be that those lined up how I needed to put them. I believe that was a 7. Possession was still with Boston. Their forwards rolled a 2. Their defense rolled a 7. Their goalie rolled a 7. And their penalty die was a 3. So, no penalties, which is good. Forwards for Chicago was a 3, 2, 1, and 7. So, the forward rolled a 2. The defense also had a 2, which means it did not beat that. So the defense actually barely kept the offense from getting a shot on goal in this highlight. So again, I will put like a slash there and a slash there for nothing happened. 0, 0. 3 more minutes pass, so we're at the 10-minute mark. Period 1. This is an even, so possession for this highlight goes to Chicago. Let's roll these dice. My camera, I have this thing set up kind of weird. To where, oop, that was a 6, so it's in a weird spot. So 6, the D8, the D10, and the D6. That's good. They are at an 8, 6, 8, 10. So here's the first 8, 6, 8, and 10. So how this works out is, let's see, their forwards got a 5, a 1 for their defense, that's not good. Goalie rolled a 2, that's really not good. Penalty is a 5. So 2 things happen. 2 things are going to happen on this play. Their forwards rolled a 7. Their defense rolled a 6. Their goalie rolled a 3. And their penalty die was a 7. These 7 and 7 match, but since they're not even, there's no penalty. This 5 and this 5 are odd, and they match. So this is they're going to get a minor penalty, minor 2-minute penalty for forwards. Their shot on goal, though, for the forwards for Chicago is a 7, which beats the defensive 1, and it beats the goalie added to that 2. So 7 beats 1 and 3. So that is a goal for Chicago. 1-0. So here's how this penalty will work. We'll roll our time die. Time die is yellow, so that's 2 minutes. This is at the end or around the end of the 2-minute mark. So this penalty will apply. If they roll a 1 or a 2, a minor penalty applies on the next play, the next highlight. If they roll a 3 or higher, that's well past the 2-minute mark. This 2 here is an abstract, give or take some time between the two, around the 2-minute mark. So that's still going to apply. So what's going to happen is the penalty is going to drop this D6 to a D4. It's odd though, so that's good. So they do get possession of the puck, which is good. But they're going to roll a D4 instead of a D6. So we'll take this D6 out and put a D4 in, a green D4. So let's roll these. All right, the D4 is their top one. D8, roll to 3. Their goalie is a D10, that's the D10, and their penalty die is a D6. They are 8, 6, 8, and 10. So there's an 8, a 6. Oh, wait, no, I haven't rolled it yet. That's funny. So 8, 6, 8, and 10. All right. So 4, 3, 6, and 5. 4, 3, 6, 5. They did not get a penalty because nothing matched up. 6, 2, 6, 6. 6, 2, 6, 6. Okay. Two things are going to happen here. One, they got a shot on goal. Four beats a 2. Shot on goal. 6 plus 2 is 8. So that 4 did not beat an 8. I'll pause right there for a second and look at my notes real quick. What happens here, so it's shot on goal and it's a save, which is fine. So we'll write shot on goal, save. Still 0 to 1. However, Chicago's forwards and their goalie both matched the penalty die and it was even. So what we're going to do, if more than one position gets a match, you'll roll a die to see who actually got the penalty. Even is the forwards, odd is the goalie. Even. So their forwards will drop. They got a penalty. So that minor 2-minute penalty to the forward position. And I should have put, for this line right here, this penalty remaining, you put 2 minutes remaining after this highlight. You don't have to use that if you can keep track of it in your head. But just for sake of ease, I'm going to put 2 minutes there also. So this penalty, no matter what, for Boston is over next highlight because it's going to be well past the 2-minute mark. What's going to happen now, though, is we're going to roll possession and time. So 4 minutes have passed, which means this penalty is not going to affect this team because it's well over 2 minutes past when they got it. So the penalty won't take place. They'll stay at a D8 instead of a D6. Not a big deal. It's even, which means they will get it, and this D4 will go back to a D6. So a 6, let's see, a D8 there. Goalie is a D10. 2 was their penalty die. They are going to roll. Let's see, 8, 6, 8, 10. So the highest 8 that rolled will go in the highest spot. The 6 is a defense. Their goalie is an 8, which was the other 8, and their penalty die was a D10. So 6, 7, 4, 2. We'll write that down. 6, 7, 4, 2. 2, 1, 1, 3. Neither team has to worry about the penalty die because that was even for them, and there's not 3 that match it. That's odd for them, which means nothing, and also nothing, not anything, not all 3 of their dice match it. So their forwards roll a 2, but their defense is a 7. So that shot doesn't even get to the goal. The defense, just for this highlight, completely shut down Chicago's forwards, and nothing. Score is still 0 to 1. Oh, and it was 4 minutes. Oh gosh, I forgot to write that in. That was what, 2 minutes? So that's 12. It's 4, so that's 16. So 16 minutes into the first period, we're still 0 to 1. Now this game is a little bit different from some of the others. The rules-wise, this is very easy. However, it tracks a lot more things, so there's more to. It's a little bit longer playing of a game because it tracks more things, even though the rules are pretty basic. So we're gonna go in again. This is my next sheet. 6 minutes, which we were already at 16 minutes, so that will put it at the end. It's the end of the first period. Odd means the visitors got possession. Boston. We'll roll Boston's dice. So 6 was the top die. 8. Here's the 8. Their next D6. No, the goalie was a D10, and the penalty die was a D6. Roll theirs. And this will be much easier to roll if you have a bigger area to roll in. I just happen to be rolling at an odd angle because this is where my camera's at, so I can't use my left hand very well. Let's see, 8. So here's the 2 8s are down here, but they're the way I like to lay them out, and this is just my preference. I have these numbers 8, 6, 8, 10, which I know what those are. Forwards, defense, goalies, penalty. The top of the 2 D8s I will put at the actual top for their forwards. The D6 just happens to be there. The D8, other D8 is their goalie right there. This 10 is last. I'll move this over so we can read them. They have possession. So Boston rolled a 3 for their forwards, a 6 for their defense, a 10 for their goalie. That's really good. And a 4 for their penalty die. Nothing matches. The penalty doesn't matter because it's an even number, and the other 3 dice don't match it. 6, 5, 1, 7. So penalty die doesn't matter for them either at this point. So the forwards rolled a 3, which is not higher than a 5. So their defense just completely shuts their forwards down, and we end the period 0-1. So that's currently how that plays. There are some other rules already in place for if multiple positions might possibly get a penalty at the same time. There are currently rules in place for pulling a goalie at the end of a game. And some of the other team creation rules are in place. Those are a little bit more complex than I wanted to put in here because I don't know if there's a change over time. Anyway, this is just a work in progress, but this is a preview of the hockey game that I'm working on. In the current working name for this game that I'm creating is Highlight Action Tabletop Sports Hockey. So Highlight Action Tabletop Sports, the hockey version for me. This is the work in progress of it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it makes sense. Some rules may change over time, just like my penalty dice mechanic did. It just happened to be that before when I was doing playtesting, there were just penalties. Like every highlight there was a penalty, and it just became too much and very unrealistic. I'm going to take this off of there and kind of show you guys. Let me go back and show you guys how that looks. And it's probably really hard to see because my lighting is really bad in here right now. And this camera kind of sucks, honestly. I don't think I'm going to use it anymore. Anyway, that's how that looks. It might look a little cluttered and a little complex, but it's obviously, as you can see with me rolling the dice, it's really not. Some other things I forgot to mention were if, say, on this roll here, that Boston got possession, if by chance they would have gotten a penalty of any sort during a possession, that penalty overrides their shot, any possible shot on goal. So a penalty immediately nullifies their possession. So it doesn't matter if their forwards rolled a 10 or had a D12 and rolled a 12, and their defense and goalie on the other team rolled a 1 and a 1. If they got a penalty of any sort, it shuts that possession down. But I'm working on some other things also to see if maybe, like say for example, these guys got the shot on goal, Oh, here's a better example. On this one, Chicago had possession. They had a shot on goal. They had a minor penalty. I'm working on things to possibly give the, the possession team or the possessing team a bonus of some sort on their shot if the opposing team gets a penalty in the same highlight. But anyway, those things will come over time. Again, this is supposed to be an abstract, fast-playing game, so I don't want to bog it down with too many rules. But that's another thing I've been working on. I have notes on those things also. So anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys checking this out, and I apologize for the really bad video quality. And we will see you guys later. Thanks.